Ryan, before we get started, do you mind removing the hat?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, we don't need it anymore. I'll throw it
Do it
throw it
right
to the side.
away.
Now we're ready, and we're ready to go. Now we're
Do
ready.
it right away. Hey, so yeah, just so we can get at least one more subscriber, right? Because we can't get enough subscribers. So, hey, just from now on, that's another rule in general. I didn't know that there's rules to the game. Well, we know there's rules to basketball, but there's rules to listen up. All right. No hats on listen up. All right. We're back, Ryan. Phil and Ryan presented by Dempsey's and Sportsland. Ryan, it's interesting because we're just hours, and I mean hours away from 2023 and still a lot of question marks, huh? We don't want to beat around the bush and say all is well. Still a lot of question marks. We've been aware of that. Okay. And again, today was proof because man, a bad taste in my mouth. It was a win. Yes, it was a win as the UConn Huskies improved to 11-2. Ryan 61-48 over the Marquette Golden Eagles. But you know what was interesting, and I'll turn it right over to you because we care about what Ryan says, and I'm well aware of that, and that's totally fine with me. So Ryan, we will let you talk away. Ryan, I just think it's interesting before you get started on your take about this game. You told me, Phil, this is what I expected against Creighton. But for some odd reason, they came out and you said, man, just slow and just slow to get to the basketball. And Phil, they just seemed just mentally tired, physically tired. There was a scare, as I understand, with Dorka Uhas for a quick second. So
Yeah.
Ryan, yeah, and you told me, man, you're like, we need Aubrey and Aubrey Griffin and AZ Fudd back like very quickly.
Yeah, like right now. We need him back right now. But UConn's last game of 2022 and for the month of December,
Mm-hmm.
been a challenging month, like you said, a lot of injuries, 2 losses, many other obstacles. But UConn's win today, win is a win. They end the month and the year on a 4-game win streak and improve to 11-2. Aubrey Griffin, like we mentioned, remained out for a second straight game due to COVID. Amari DeBerry, however, was able to rejoin the team after missing Wednesday night's game. But to start off today's game, it was Aaliyah Edwards leading the charge yet again for UConn. In the first quarter, she had 5 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 2 steals. She was hustling, fighting for loose balls. But Lou Lopez said, "Don't forget about me." She had 6 straight points. Offense was flowing. Lou ended the quarter with 8 points, but I will say the defense was a little lackluster. A couple times UConn got caught sleeping, not stopping the ball or boxing out. Nonetheless, UConn was up 9 at the end of the first quarter. In the second quarter, though, is when things really started to tighten up. Marquette tightened up their defense, made it really tough for UConn. Huskies just looked indecisive on offense. Players weren't moved around. A lot of standing around on offense, and the game would have been closer, I think, but Marquette was just unable to execute on offense, missed a couple easy looks, and doing it mostly without their leading scorer, Jordan King, who was in foul trouble early. But the half ended UConn up 28-22, so just by 6 points. And like Gino said at halftime, you could tell he was really frustrated. But I'm not sure if UConn was more tired mentally or physically, not setting his screens or cutting how Gino wanted them to. And in the third quarter, it was a battle. Marquette continued to battle and stay in the game. And Caroline and Dorka had a good quarter, but Marquette definitely was not making it easy on UConn. And the Huskies eventually closed it out thanks to Caroline Ducharme having her best game of the season. Heck of an effort from Caroline today. Lou and Caroline, the two main players on offense that UConn relied on to score points for them today. Dorka fought hard on the boards and got buckets. I love the way Dorka plays. You mentioned the scare, and I'm glad she's okay. Such a physical player, always battling for the ball, but hats off to Marquette today, the Golden Eagles. They came into Gamble Pavilion ready to play, and I don't think UConn was quite ready for that type of battle.
Yeah, perfectly said. Well done. Ryan, your take. I wanted to get your take on, I mean, what if? I mean, I know Leah Edwards has been on a roll, and I'm afraid I didn't want to jinx anything, man, but Just scored, I believe, 9 points today. Still a terrific game from her. But just as we were getting hyped up about her in the discussion of National Player of the Year, it just seems, I know you're right. And we don't expect, and let's just put it this way, any individual lady on this roster, we don't expect A+ game every single game. I mean, we get it. They're humans. We already been over that before and before again, over and over. So Ryan, but man, and I'll say it again, it's like it's like my own voice in my head when we had that episode about Lopez Senechal. And I could hear me saying in the beginning of that video months and months ago, back in the summer, or was spring or summer during the off season when they welcomed her in, Lopez Senechal, welcome to UConn. Lopez Senechal. It's Phil and Rye on Listen Up. And and the reason for that, because, I was sitting back and I was thinking to myself, man, without Ducharme and Senechal today, then what? A combined 41 points from these two.
Yeah, and Caroline, season high 19 points, grabbed 7 rebounds. Today was definitely a good day for Caroline to have her best game. They needed her today. She showed out. And Lou, like you mentioned, 22 points. She was a playmaker for UConn today. When UConn needed a bucket, they threw it to Lou, and she got them one most of the time. They trusted Lou to make a play, and Gino definitely did as well. And Dorka, like you mentioned, had a good game as well. Got it almost close to a double-double. Like I said, I love the way Dorka's just hustling out there. Takes so many hard falls to the floor, bouncing around off of different players. But that's just her style of game. But I like how you mentioned Aaliyah Edwards because I think after the first quarter, to me, it just seemed like she didn't really have an opportunity to score that much. She only had 8 shots. And I think Marquette, after the first quarter, I think their head coach, Duffy for Marquette, I think she just huddled up the team and told them, if there's one thing we're going to do today, we're not going to allow Aaliyah Edwards to beat us. And they definitely didn't. And that's why it was so important for Lou and Caroline to step up offensively, because if they wouldn't have, there's a good possibility UConn may have lost this game. So I think Marquette definitely did a good job to not allow Aaliyah to get the ball into her hands after that first quarter and really make an impact on the game. But Aaliyah really just didn't have that many opportunities to score today. And Nika, I want to bring up her as well. 0 for 5 from the floor today, no points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, but not her best performance. She did solid defensively, but offensively, I think at times it just seemed like she wasn't in control of the offense and commanding it like we're used to her seeing. So just not the best performance from Nika today on offense.
And when you look at the final score, I think it was big. Congratulations to Connecticut for limiting. I told you this in the final check-in. They limited Jordan King, the most powerful player in this Marquette starting lineup, Ryan. The guard, Jordan King, they limited her to 4 points all game. 4 points all game. Only 2 rebounds, no assists. 4 points all game. She played 28 minutes, Ryan. But congratulations, hats off to Marquette, the Golden Eagles again. As they fall to Connecticut 61-48. Ryan, Marquette 9-5, Connecticut 11-2. Carlin was the leading scorer for Marquette with 15 points, Ryan. So again, it looks like Marquette had 3 players in double-digit figures for scoring. But again, a hard defensive game that we thought we would see the last game. So that, again, that's the beauty about sports, because you told me a long time ago, Phil, I wish I could predict the future and tell you, especially when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens, but I just can't, Phil.
No, nobody can. But that's why we love sports so much, because then anything can happen on any given day. And I also want to bring up, we talked about UConn being mentally worn down and physically worn down. They look tired today. I think, Amari and Ayana saw about 8 to 9 minutes off the bench today. So, I mean, Gino's not really putting in the subs, and he really, I realize he doesn't really have a lot of players to choose from, speaking about AZ and Aubrey still being out, and hopefully they return next week, because UConn really needs them. The starters can't continue to play 30 or 35 minutes out of the 40 minutes every single game. It's just not possible. because like we saw today, they're just getting worn down. So if AZ and Aubrey aren't able to return next week, I think some of these games coming up, we're going to see the same thing, just the starters being worn down.
Yeah, and again, all jokes aside, I've been kind of viewed as, I guess it's safe to say, like the enemy around UConn here the last 3-4 weeks, which is okay. I didn't realize, and I didn't really realize that there is a limit to having fun on sports podcasts. Okay, but all jokes aside, I will admit, this team is actually, and I get it, man, I get it. They're known for the top bringing the top players out of high school and on and on and on. But when you consider, and as I sit back and look through the comments before we get into comments with you and then wrap it up for the new year, I have to admit, Ryan, that I am very shocked. Because again, you can consider, well, you take it for granted. We have most of the top players in the country. Don't think that way, because as I sit back and talk to you right now, as I look through the comments from the subs in the mailbag, they are right. This could be very, very much more ugly than what it is right now. So again, as I sit back, I have to admit, 100%, I have to admit that no matter what happens from this point on out, as we turn the calendar, especially the last day of 22, I don't even think you did. I don't think that anyone would have sat back and said, yes, so the Connecticut Huskies are 11-2 on December 31st, 2022. Considering, if you follow what's happened throughout since the season started, I'm absolutely stunned by the record, 11-2. And I think that I have the full right to say that, because how many times have I heard outside voices say, you are what your record says you are?
Yeah, and that's a good point. And I think if, from an outsider view, if you're a person that didn't watch any of the UConn games and just read all the headlines throughout this whole entire season, you probably wouldn't predict that UConn has a record of 11-2. Just speaking about how AZ Fudd is reading that she's going to be out 3 to 6 weeks, and Dorka missed 7 games or 8 games, however many it was.
Ryan, I'm not taking a shot at you, but do not, for 1 second, don't be afraid to say the name Paige Beckers right now.
Yeah, and I mean, she's been out for the whole season as well. So, and Ice Brady as well, which eliminates another player coming off the bench and being able to help UConn when they're short, when they only have 7 players. So, I mean, every player that's injured has an effect on this team, and obviously they're not able to help out. So, it all goes into just the UConn starters right now, just fighting their tails off and just battling. And that really showed out today how much they battled on Wednesday, and then coming out here on Saturday, and they were still, I would say, mentally tired from that game.
Yeah, just because of season-ending injuries, you cannot. Just because it's season-ending injuries, you cannot forget about any player. Because hey, we talked about how sometimes an athlete is so good when it comes to their sport, they do an incredible job off the court just as much as they do on the court, meaning coaching. Even though coaching is not beside of your name, you could turn into a coach if you're experiencing that season-ending injury. But anyway, enough of that talk. Jason D'Amico, let's get into comments, Ryan, very quickly, and we will turn the calendar and have some fun tonight. How about that? Jason D'Amico, I love you, brother. Keep coming through. We appreciate all your support. Phil, there are 2 kinds of people in this world, bees and flies. The beauty about being a bee is that bees don't waste their time explaining to flies why honey tastes better than shit. So listen up. Keep being a bee, my friend. You can represent any institution you want. It changes nothing. You are doing great, and I love this freaking podcast. Note, Aubrey is still out and Amari is back. Even if she can give Dorka a breather, it is not much consolation at this point. UConn will win, but at what cost? Let's hope the balance sheet checks out. Peace.
Yeah, well, we definitely appreciate all Jason's comments. He's been a regular on the podcast for a while, and I love that
I know
comment.
you want to laugh so bad. That's the first time we ever dropped a cuss word, but hey, it's a quote unquote here. We apologize to any children.
Yeah, well, that's why we marked the video before we posted. Not made for children, not made for children. Right?
I love you, Ryan. I love you, man.
No, but I mean, he's right about Amari, but I just wish that Gino would kind of trust Ayana and Amari some more on the team, because it's evident that the starters need a breather, but I just don't think Gino trusts Ayana or Amari enough to put them in the game. Or I mean, he puts them in the game, but to leave them out there for an extended amount of time, you can tell that the trust just isn't there, which is unfortunate, because the starters definitely need a breather.
Yeah. Let's get into another one, Ryan, and it's short and sweet, as I like to call it. Shorian goes, you guys are a dynamic duo. Stay together. Means a lot, man.
Yeah, it does. And I mean, that's why we started the podcast, because I mean, we are cousins, and probably a lot of people still don't know that watch the pod. But yeah, I mean, I just think the chemistry we both have is really great, and I don't think a lot of other people have the same chemistry that us two do. So I think that's why this podcast is headed in the right direction, and it's going. It can only go up from here, is because of the chemistry that we have. And let's hope that we continue this for many years to come.
Oh man, so many good comments. Guys, get rid of those hats, will you please? Anthony says, try some old school curved brim hats. He goes, you look like you're wearing a Frisbee with a Husky on top. Show with the old style, and I will subscribe. Okay, so this is his video. This goes out to Anthony. So it may cover a bit of your head. You're not exactly Brad Pitt anyways. What's the harm? In a more serious note, I love the insight you guys bring to both the pre-game and post-game shows. Keep up the great work. We love you, brother. We love bringing you guys all the hard work, especially Ryan's hard work. Ryan, that's a big tip of the cap to you. But yeah, we love you, Anthony, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, well, I mean, my hat's sitting over there on the floor, so this video is definitely dedicated to him. But maybe to start off the new year, we'll get some new hats with the more curved brim. So yeah, we'll try that. We'll try it out for a change.
And some new subscribers. Do not be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Michael Lawson, this UConn team should be the talk of all sports because of what they've been through. Listen to this, Ryan. I love it. Only 7 players almost every game, missing in professional sports. You go to the minor leagues. This team missing players, no minor leagues. UConn 80, Marquette 68. I hope Carolina is okay. Mule 12 points, 8 assists. However, Edwards is the key. Dorka will get open threes. Edwards MVP.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little different story today in terms of Aaliyah, but yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point about only 7 players, and I just think that's kind of the narrative around UConn as to why they don't really get a lot of attention, or not the talk of the town per se, with about how they're dealing with so many injuries and obstacles right now. Because I think just kind of the narrative is, over the years they've won so much, and just kind of everybody just expects UConn to just win, and not a lot of people follow the team as close as we do, and all of you watching do. So I just think that's kind of the main reason, is people just expect UConn to win no matter how many players they do or don't have. And that's a good point. I don't really think a lot of people understand what the challenges UConn is facing, or have faced last year, and are continuing to face this year as well.
2 more, because they're so good. I can't stop. Brian Wilkinson goes, a few episodes ago, y'all talked a little about Saylor Poffenberger and how she is doing at Arkansas. I have not seen much of them, but I did watch quite a bit of their last 2 games, and she has not played well. Against LSU in 20 minutes, she was 0 for 5 and had 1 point. The announcers were saying her communication was poor and she had not yet learned what to say to her mates. I wish her well, but I think she would have developed a lot more under Daly and Gino. Just my humble opinion. Oh, man, that's very interesting.
Yeah, and I watched that game, the LSU and Arkansas game, and it was a rough game for both teams. Both teams looked off, but LSU really picked it up, I think, at the end of the second and the second half. But yeah,
So you see, not to cut you off right there, but before you get into the second half of your analysis, so we're saying sometimes in other words, we don't think these players, and I'm no bad talk about Sailor. I'm not doing that. What I'm saying is, in general, sometimes we think these lady athletes, well, they just don't have it. Sometimes, like you said, Ryan, sometimes UConn's not for everybody. What if it is for most people, most lady athletes? But what if it takes some time for this quote unquote greatest coaching staff ever to bring out the best in them?
Yeah, and I mean, I think for Sailor's case, I mean, she only stayed for a half year and then decided to transfer, and then of course wasn't able to play the next season, and now she finds herself in Arkansas in a pretty good situation. Arkansas is not a bad team at all. But we have to remember, I mean, she's only a freshman. It's her first year
Good point.
at the Arkansas program. So, I mean, she still definitely has a lot of learning to do. And that was a really tough matchup against Angel Reese, transfer from Maryland, going to LSU. I mean, Angel Reese has a double-double in every single game this season. So
a transfer from where?
Transfer from Maryland. And
transfer
Maryland,
from where?
Yeah, and I mean that was a tough matchup because Angel Reese is a heck of a ball player, and for Sailor just being a freshman, still obviously learning a lot of things. That was a really tough matchup for her. But like I said, I wish her all the best, and she definitely has a lot of growing and a lot of learning to do under Arkansas. But Arkansas is still a pretty good team, and hopefully we see them in March Madness.
I like this one to cap it off because Stevie Kinsey kind of has the mindset that Phil has. I know I'm jumping way ahead, but I selfishly cannot wait until next season for Paige and Ice to be back on the floor with their team. Plus the recruiting class joining, plus the recruiting class joining. I think all the adversity and tough times with the injuries this team has faced from last season to this season is preparing them for a national championship next season. Paige is going to come back strong, confident, and firing on all cylinders. Anyone who doesn't think she will be the same player is foolish. Just can't wait to see it. Ryan, that goes to our phone discussion the other night. You and I had a phone conference together, and usually 99% of the time when we call each other now on the phone, it's UConn Huskies women's basketball talk. And that was a big topic that I brought up to you, Ryan, is next season. I don't want to be the enemy just because I'm looking forward to next season.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly hope they're right about everything next season and about Paige Beckers. And I think that's going to be an interesting talk upcoming this off season about how Ice Brady is going to fit in. Obviously, not seeing any of her this season. She's an interesting player, but
watch out. We'll just watch out.
All the recruits coming in.
I can't wait.
And only UConn's only going to lose one player, obviously a big player, Dorka Juhas, but only losing one player. So basically,
and Senechal.
Yeah, and Senechal as well. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, those are two big losses, but pretty much bringing almost the whole entire team back. So next year, definitely a really good year to look forward to.
Ryan, let's go crack open a cold one and welcome 2023. Ryan, for the final time, I love you, man. You've done some hard work. What a successful 2022. And I cannot wait to see your smiling face right back here for another final check-in before the next game. And that won't be until next year, even though it's about I'd say about 60 some hours away. We're still going to say we will see each other next year. For Alston, Anita, We know he's a big part of us. For Austin Anita, I'm Phil Becerra alongside Ryan Renner. We want to thank Dempsey's and Sportsland. Dempsey's Grill and Sportsland for all of their hard work and continued support. And all of you, man, all of our subscribers, thank you so much for an amazing 2022. And we will see you next year. Listen up, Ryan.